Delegates from across Africa are attending the Commonwealth Africa Summit in London. This year's theme is Common Good. We'll have a report. An American girl sets up a school for underprivileged children in Gambia. And a Nigerian entrepreneur fights pollution with fashion. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidui. You are in for Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We'll have those stories in a moment. But first, voters in Sierra Leone are returning to the polls in 2 weeks to choose the new country's president. A round of presidential election is set for March 27th, after none of the country's 16 candidates failed to clinch the 55% of votes necessary to win in the first round. The chairman of the National Electoral Commission made the announcement Tuesday night, 1 week after the voters cast their ballots.
There will be a second election run exclusively between the All People's Congress APC presidential candidate, Dr. Samora Matthew Wilson Kamara, and the Sierra Leone People's Party SLPP presidential candidate, Julius Mada Bio.
Sierra Leone's election period has been mostly peaceful, but the runoff period may heighten the risk of electoral violence. Amnesty International is calling on the government to ensure that Sierra Leoneans can speak and campaign freely in the second round. Now, members of Nigeria's Bring Back Our Girls group has given the Nigerian government a 7-day ultimatum to take action to free the remaining 112 Chibok girls and the 110 kidnapped in Dapchi last month, or face court action. The group teamed up with the human rights activist and lawyer Femi Falana and served the Nigerian government with a list of 14 questions which they expect the government to respond to. Nigeria's presidency said Monday it plans to negotiate for the release of 110 girls abducted from Dapchi rather than use a military operation to free them by force. Obi Ezekwesili, a convener of Bring Back Our Girls campaign, read the ultimatum.
We shall be suing the federal government of Nigeria for gross negligence that led to the abduction of our Chibok girls. Our lawyers are seated with us. Femi Falana and co shall be representing us in a suit against the federal government of Nigeria for gross negligence that led to the abduction of our Chibok girls. We hereby serve the federal government a notice that in the next 7 days, we need all the answers to our 14 questions. We remain committed to standing for all our girls, Chibok girls and Dapchi girls.
110 girls were seized from Dapchi State in northeast Nigeria by suspected Boko Haram insurgents in February. It was one of the largest abductions since the Chibok kidnappings of 2014, when more than 250 girls were abducted. Now, the Red Cross Society in Kenya says about 5,000 Ethiopians seeking refuge have crossed into Kenya since March 10th. This news comes after several civilians were killed in what the Ethiopian military says was a botched security operation targeting militants. Ethiopian state media say soldiers had been deployed to an area near Moyale, a border town in Kenya near Ethiopia. The soldiers were in pursuit of Oromo Liberation Front fighters who had crossed onto the country from Kenya. Faulty intelligence led to the botched operation that killed 9 people and injured 12 others. Outbreaks of violence continues in the Oromia region even after Ethiopia declared a 6-month state of emergency last month following the abrupt resignation of Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn. The Oromo Liberation Front is a secessionist group which the government describes as terrorists. Delegates from across Africa are attending the Commonwealth Africa Summit in London, where the theme this year is the common good. Topics under discussion include climate change and improving gender equality. The Commonwealth has its origins in the British Empire. Most members were former colonies, and as Henry Ridgwell reports, Britain is hoping to rekindle those ties as it leaves the European Union.
19 African countries are members of the Commonwealth, an organization that encompasses a third of the global population. The opening summit address was given by Maria Fernandez de la Vega, president of the Women for Africa Foundation.
In the face of the ever greater tolerance for inequality, we have to continue to cry out for equality. The combination of young people and women together will allow us to take a new look at Africa.
Issues such as gender equality are being tackled by other institutions like the United Nations and the African Union. So what is the point of the Commonwealth?
There is a general interest and value which is attached to the Commonwealth as a political imagination, to the access and networks that it offers, to possibilities of best practice, and to, indeed, emphasising communalities of working together.
After a 4-year absence, Gambia was readmitted to the Commonwealth last month following the democratic election of President Adama Barrow. Zimbabwe has indicated that it may apply to rejoin after it was suspended in 2002 due to concerns over unfair elections.
I would expect that there have to be free and fair elections in Zimbabwe, which are expected by late summer of this year.
Caroline Campila, a Zimbabwean citizen living in London, attended the conference. She hopes Zimbabwe will soon be readmitted.
We've been isolated for such a long time, and we really want to be where other people are, where other nations are.
Interest in the Commonwealth has also revived in Britain, where the government hopes increased trade can help make up for any losses after leaving the European Union.
Quite frankly, I find that idea laughable because the Commonwealth is the antithesis, the very opposite of the EU as a bureaucratic trading bloc.
Nonetheless, Britain is aiming to strengthen ties when it hosts the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting next month. That's when the leaders of all 53 member nations will gather in London and at the royal family's residence at Windsor Castle. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
A free nursery school is up and running for the underprivileged children in the Gambia, thanks to a 24-year-old American girl. Sarah Musa's inspirational work started in high school, where she advocated for girls to get an education through Girls Learn International. As a junior in high school, she was one of the 4 recipients of the University Women Diversity Award. She has also been recognized for her work in helping girls in India get an education. Sarah has now set up her own non-profit organization known as Prospect in Mommy's Tummy, with the aim of assisting vulnerable populations such as expectant mothers and children have access to education and health care. Now, Sarah joins me in the studio to tell us more about her work in the Gambia. Sarah, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say thank you to you and all the staff here for having me here.
Now, Sarah, you know you're amazing. At only 24, most people your age would be focused on self-progress, you know, and I'm just wondering, what's the inspiration behind all this?
Absolutely. When I was in high school, I co-started a club called Girls Learn International, and through Girls Learn International, I learned about factors such as human rights and factors affecting girls from getting an education. And so through that, I was able to learn about the reasons such as cultural preferences. In some cultures, parents prefer to educate boys over girls, and sometimes poverty. Those are all factors that affect girls from getting an education.
I find your organization's title very interesting, Prospect in Mommy's Tummy.
You're right.
How did that come about?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2014, I went to an interview and I was asked the question, where do you see yourself in 10 years? So I responded by saying that in 10 years' time, I wanted to build a clinic. And then afterwards, I told my parents the questions that were asked, and my mom said, why wait for 10 years when you can start now? So since then, we started Prospect in Mommy's Tummy.
Now, you have built a nursery school in the Gambia.
Right.
And it's up and running. How did you get the funds? First of all, to acquire land in a country like that is even very difficult, let alone put up a school and books and all that.
Yeah.
Tell me how you're getting your funds to get all this done.
Absolutely. My parents, my mother is from the Gambia, my father is from Sierra Leone. My parents have been so involved in the organization to help bring the vision alive. And so my parents, they bought a land in the Gambia, and for that land they built a house, and that's what we are currently using as a temporary location for the school. And in that same compound, we have some space to be able to build a permanent location for the school.
Now, is your organization paying the teachers and even the bills that the school has to incur?
You're right. The organization, my parents are the ones using mainly their resources to be able to pay for those bills. Yeah, you're right.
So your next goal, you've talked about health for poor children and expectant mothers. You're planning to build health clinics where? Still in the Gambia?
You're right.
How do you plan to do that?
We will hope to, with the availability of funding, we hope to be able to expand to different countries. So we hope to have some funds and sponsorships, and that will allow us to be able to further our vision. Yeah.
So when you went to the school, what were the greatest needs? What kind of things did they need? Books, pencils? What did you take over there?
You're right. So what we did was we looked around the community. We did a community survey. We identified the children based on. We did some interview questions to the parents. Their socioeconomic status, how many kids do they have, and the factors as to the reason why they cannot send their children to school. And that's how we identified the children for the school. And after identifying the children, they were enrolled there. And we provide them with free schooling, backpacks, uniforms, because we understand that poverty is a main factor as to why girls can get an education.
A huge contrast from what you get here. You have a school bus picking you right outside of your house, taking you to school. There's school.
You're right, exactly.
You have all the things that you need in school. Yes. Now, what is the message you want to pass across for other young American girls, or even the youth, whether they're here in the United States or in Africa, to inspire others or do something?
Absolutely. The message is really to focus on your passion. For me, girls' education is something I've been passionate since high school, and that gives me the drive just because there's so much potential in a girl, and by investing in girls, we'll be able to see a change in the nation. And so the message is to really follow your dreams and passion, and it will take you far.
Oh, Sarah, you are so impressive.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I should have done that years ago, right? Thank you very much, Sarah. Sarah Musa is the founder of Prospect in Mommy's Tummy, a non-profit organization. Burundi's ruling party has bestowed the title of Eternal Supreme Guide on President Pierre Nkurunziza. Party officials confirmed the move in a video sent to AFP news agency. The former rebel leader has ruled the Central African countries since 2005, following the devastating civil war. A constitutional referendum in May could allow him to run in the 2020 presidential elections, paving the way for him to remain in power until 2034. Opposition parties warned the constitutional changes could deal a death blow to the Arusha Peace Accords that helped to end the civil war in 2006. The Arusha Accords stipulate that no president can govern the country for more than 10 years. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Coming up, the fallout continues following Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's abrupt firing. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
We're literally standing in an ancient saltwater sea that covered the whole Northeast about 350 to 400 million years ago.
Joe Bucci Jr. is a mine environmental manager for the American Rock Salt Company, where elevators carry miners 400 meters deep in the earth, where they use powerful hydraulic machines and saws to scrape and grind out halite or walls of salt. Salt's a high-demand product in the winter for melting ice on roads and sidewalks. Chemical manufacturing is the #1 use, but salt is used in thousands of things from food to livestock. To get it requires a different lifestyle underground. This New York State location ships out 20,000 tons a day.
We have offices, we have our production hoist. It really is a small city.
The worldwide salt industry is growing about 2% a year, which will push prices up about the same amount. The fastest growing markets are China and India. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
Now, the sacking of U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson after just over a year in service has not been a huge surprise. but its manner and timing was. It was no secret that President Donald Trump and his chief diplomat did not see eye to eye on several foreign policy issues. But the fact that Tillerson learned that he was fired from a Trump tweet sparked consternation. VOA's Latza Hoke looks into reaction to Tillerson firing.
Political commentators noticed that the secretary was dismissed hours after stating that Russia is responsible for the poisoning of a former Russian spy in Britain. Trump has remained silent on the subject. In his farewell speech Tuesday, Tillerson had a message for the Russian government.
Russia must assess carefully as to how its actions are in the best interest of the Russian people and of the world more broadly. Continuing on their current trajectory is likely to lead to greater isolation on their part, a situation which is not in anyone's interest.
Trump's choice for Tillerson's replacement is the head of the CIA, Mike Pompeo. Former high-ranking U.S. diplomat Tom Countryman, who was fired by Tillerson, told VOA that Pompeo likely knows a lot about Russia's interference in the U.S. political process.
I hope that he may be able to convince the president not just to acknowledge that this is a problem, but for the first time to get the president to do something to defend U.S. democracy against these covert operations.
Political analysts note that Pompeo has a military education, and Trump seems to work well with military officers.
You will see a more robust, more Trumpian, more hands-on, more integrated foreign policy that will be closer with the Pentagon, with the intelligence community, etc. There will still be critics because Pompeo is a partisan Republican. He's a former congressman.
The reshuffling at the State Department comes ahead of Trump's possible May summit with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un on denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. May is also the time when Trump says he wants to abandon an international nuclear agreement with Iran.
And those two things just can't go together. There is no way in the world that throwing out a valid agreement that is working would increase your negotiating leverage with North Korea. Rather, it should cause the North Korean leader to ask himself, how can I sign any agreement with a president who's prepared to break every previous agreement?
But Countryman commends the president for taking the risk, as long as he doesn't expect to come out with a comprehensive agreement on North Korea's nuclear disarmament. Some analysts say it is not worth holding a summit without a hope of achieving it. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
The latest White House shakeup provoked strong reactions on Capitol Hill, especially among Democratic lawmakers. VOA's Michael Bowman spoke with several senators and has our report.
News of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's ouster and the nomination of CIA Director Mike Pompeo to replace him spread like wildfire in the halls of Congress.
I just think it's unfortunate that we've had so much chaos around foreign policy, a lack of consistency, a lack of speaking with one voice.
I was very disappointed. I think he's done a great job. It'll be very interesting to see where we go from here.
To me, it's an incredibly challenging time for American diplomacy with this commander in chaos.
Democratic Senator Tim Kaine told VOA that, as a member of Congress, Mike Pompeo tended to endorse military solutions over diplomatic ones, making him an odd choice to serve as America's top diplomat. But senior Republican lawmakers disagree.
So I'm sorry to see Rex Tillerson go, but Mike Pompeo is an outstanding choice to succeed him.
Some question whether any Secretary of State can effectively discharge his duties under President Donald Trump.
And whenever you have a Secretary of State who says one thing on the world stage, and then you have the president totally undermine him and undercut him and pull the rug from underneath him, that creates instability in the world.
But the diplomatic opening with North Korea has persuaded some senators that, whatever Trump's governing style may be, it gets results.
All administrations have a differing point, a different management style. Clearly, this president has a different management style than other presidents have had in the past.
Last year, Trump abruptly fired then FBI Director James Comey. Now Tillerson, a top member of his cabinet, has been shown the door.
And I think it was kind of bad form to not tell Secretary Tillerson. I mean, where I'm raised, that's just bad manners.
The chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Republican Bob Corker, told reporters the committee would consider Pompeo's nomination as quickly as possible. Michael Bowman, VOA News, the Capitol.
Tens of thousands of students and teachers across the United States walked out of schools Wednesday to protest what the organizers, the Women's March Youth Empower, the youth branch of Women's March, say is congressional inaction to gun violence in American schools. The walkout lasted for 17 minutes, one for each person killed when a gunman opened fire on Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, on February 14th. The organizers say nearly 3,000 walkouts were held across the country and around the world. VOA senior Swahili editor Abdushakur Aboud attended one of the school walkouts today in Arlington, Virginia, and he joins us now to tell us about what he experienced. Shakur, what a day here in Washington and across America and even the world. What did you observe?
Yeah, really, it was very interesting and moving. At the school in Arlington, the students came out at 10 o'clock exactly. They were given 17 minutes by the school authorities, and they came and held sort of a memorial, and each minute they read the name of each of the person who was killed and gave a description of each person during that 1 minute and had a silence for a minute. So it was sort of a memorial for them. And other schools also did different things. Some marched around the school, and there was a demonstration which started at the White House all the way to the Capitol. And what was interesting was that some of the congressmen came out. They also walked out with Nancy Pelosi, and they came and joined the students. And one could see at the field in front of the Capitol, it was like no organization at all. They were just talking to a mic which was just prepared.
You know, the
suddenly.
issue of gun control has become such a heated topic here in the United States. And you spoke to a number of people, including parents, teachers. Do they seem to agree on the core issues on which way to go when it comes to gun control?
In reality, the movement which the students at Florida started is they want more background checks. They need the gun, the AR-15, to be banned. It was banned before, and they want more security in their schools. So they agree on those points, which looks like the Congress people are not ready to take those.
Now, very quickly, Abdushakur, in Africa, owning a gun is usually the preserve of security officials, but the young Americans here have sort of a lesson to give out there to the young students in Africa who sometimes have issues to discuss. Do you think there's anything they can learn from that, very briefly?
Definitely they can learn a lot of things, because when you look at in African schools, one major issue, let's say for example, is sexual harassment. They could use their voice because we know a lot of girls, teen pregnancy in Africa is a major issue in many schools. They could follow the hashtag #MeToo and use their voice as a way of following, asking government or officials to take action against such things.
Shakur, thank you very much for your insight into this and going out there.
Thank you.
Abdushakur Aboud is VOA senior Swahili editor. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, turning trash into fashion treasure. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. A New York product development firm is stepping up the fight against climate change by creating carbon-neutral shoes. The pair of white sneakers is 75% made from a plastic material that captured gaseous waste from power plants. Typically, sneakers are made from petroleum byproducts. The gas waste of a power plant was captured and liquefied, then brought to a CO2 recycling company. There it was, turned into the base material to make the shoe. The recycled CO2 green cakes are not for sale yet, so stay tuned. Next up, Nigerian entrepreneur Olayemi Samson is working on a piece for his latest collection of outerwear, a raincoat made of plastic waste. He came up with the idea of using discarded water sachets to make items like clothes, shower caps and school bags in a bid to fight against pollution in his home city, Lagos. He washes and disinfects them before using them to create his practical recycled pieces. Olayemi has not yet turned a profit from his creations, but says he hopes to inspire young people and those in authority to reimagine recycling and see it as a unique opportunity to protect the environment. And finally, Jay-Z and Beyonce have announced they will hit the road together later this year for a stadium tour. The super couple will kick off their On the Run 2 tour June 6 in Cardiff, Wales. The tour will hit 15 cities across the United Kingdom and Europe and 21 cities in North America. Tickets go on sale to the general public starting March 19th. The tour is a reprise of the couple's joint 2014 six-week On the Run tour across North America and 2 dates in Paris, which were filmed for an HBO special. This time, the tour will end October 2nd in Vancouver. And that's what's trending today. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching and good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Lots of items are made from gold, like jewelry, coins, and medals.
Golden opportunity.
This sounds like a strange thing to be made of gold.
Jonathan, are you as excited as I am about the holiday next week?
I might be more excited. The holiday is a golden opportunity for me to catch up